to The Sound of Design
with Mark
and Dan. And thank you very much for joining us on today's episode. We are extremely thankful that you guys are here. So keep on keeping on with the likes, the shares, the comments. Obviously, we'd love to hear from you guys. And as we get into this upcoming week, we've got a big game. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah, it's a big one. It's the big one.
The big one. In fact, it's so big you can't even say what it is without getting sued. So, in our world, this is one of those times that TVs tend to go on sale, and so we figure this is an opportunity we couldn't pass up to do our first ever ranking episode where we will rank specific models in the 2023-2024 lineup and give you some of our best picks for this year. So if you're thinking about grabbing a new TV for the big game,
and other games after, you don't just have to watch it for that or return it the next day.
Yeah, we're not. Let's not do that. Let's definitely not do that. So I figure it's probably best to say that I have a little bit of a pet peeve when it comes to this kind of thing. And that is that whenever anybody ranks anything, and it doesn't matter what it is, the least talked about part of this is the criteria. And so what I want to do is maybe go through a little bit of the thought process behind why it is we went the directions that we did and where that came from. And so the criteria really will be part of that discussion as to so you understand where this is coming from, and so you get a little justification instead of a quick list. It's obviously, the list is going to be in the description, and so if you just want a real fast, quick reference, feel free, check it out. But I think to really understand why is going to be kind of the main focus here. So, Mark, what are the categories that we're going to talk about today? We should have our top 5, and so what are we going to do in terms of those categories or brackets, if you will?
Sure. Yeah. So Dan and I spent a little bit of time just trying to come up with some different criteria or categories that we thought made the most sense based on our experience in the industry and kind of what we're seeing as we go out to people's homes and what we talk about. So we came up with, instead of doing a top 5 TV, because every TV is going to work differently in different spaces, we're going to go through these categories. So we'll have the best value in a large size TV, a mid-size, and a small size, the best aesthetically pleasing television, the best picture overall, and then maybe some honorable mentions based on that last one because, again, it could be subjective based on what does best looking mean to you. So
that is correct. Awesome. Well, I think it's a great place to start is best value in a large size. And so why don't we jump right into it? When we say large size, I think it's fair to say we're going to go 75, 85 or larger. And I have to say or larger because the TV that I think right now is probably your best value in that really, really large size is the Samsung 98 Q80.
Woo!
There it is. Coming in at retail price of $79.99, on sale at $49.99. I can't believe this. I literally cannot believe this. This is a 98-inch television.
Yes, it is. And we have one on display, so I can see it a lot. And at $8,000, man, this thing was a value, in my opinion, because prior to this, any TV of that size was $60,000 plus.
Yep.
It just, nothing else existed. It was 85-inch TV at $4,000 to $6,000 or 60,000 plus.
Yep.
So when this hit, I think you and I were both thinking probably 20 grand, 15 grand, somewhere around there.
Yeah, actually, I thought 20 was where they were going to go. I felt like it split the market, and Samsung had previously a 98-inch curved television that they did back in the day, and people bought it at $20,000. I remember that project vividly. It was a really cool customer who had this very unique space, and we ended up mounting it into some, cool built-ins, and just a really immersive experience for that client. And it was awesome. And it was 20 grand for a television. And, obviously he said he wanted the best without any cost. So when you come in and you say, $79.99 is a good value, it's like, well, yeah, we're less than half historically what the market was for that particular size, right? And 60 grand for the Sony. Like, okay, so now you put it on sale and you're going, like, I don't know.
Yeah, and it kind of blows my mind, to be honest, because I mean, you and I have done this for a long time, and TV sales during the year. Rarely do you ever see a TV go more than 10, 15, maybe 20% off on like the really egregious, like aggressive sales, right? But this thing being almost half off, I mean, Samsung's really trying to move a lot of these, I'm sure, but rightfully so. It's a great panel, large size. And by the way, I know we're talking about this in a large size. I just want to mention, like, this is made in different sizes too. So, it may not be on our list for other values, but if you're the type of person that likes to have the same TV everywhere, a lot of these you can match up at different sizes. So,
absolutely. And I think the other thing I would also call out is that its competitors are going to be those, TCLs and the Hisense, and those are going to be, even better in terms of their price point. But you lose picture quality, quite honestly, when you go to some of those. And there is a difference, I would say, in the manufacturing quality. And I don't mind saying that some manufacturers are competing on price point. And so if that becomes your only criteria, there's probably a lower price option that you can find. My point is to say, but what's the manufacturing quality going to be, right? And how long do you think that TV is going to last? And what can we expect from that type of a manufacturer? And that doesn't mean that, they're not an okay television. I'm sure they're fine. But the ones that I've seen by comparison, like the build quality is just completely different. And I would just briefly mention Sony makes a 98-inch as well. Awesome television, handles on the side. And we put a couple in some people's homes. No, seriously, because they're huge. Yep. Like, you got to remember, like, 98 inches is almost a 100-inch TV. I mean, this thing is massive. So you're going to need to have, if you're planning on doing any kind of installation work yourself, and you happen to be 6'6" and, 300 pounds of straight muscle, I mean, great, good for you. But the rest of us, reach out to your integrator, reach out to your install team, and let's get this thing on the schedule. And let's get 2 or 3 guys, because in all seriousness, it does take 3 guys to mount one of these things. And the Sony is a little bit more expensive. I don't know if there's a huge picture quality difference. I think it does beat it out a little bit, but that's just because I think I'm a little partial to the Sony processing. But in terms of overall best value in a large size, the Samsung 98 Q80 definitely comes in hard as the winner. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the build quality difference. Look, listen, I mean, being in the industry for 14 years, there's always going to be a top price point, and there's always going to be a lower price point somewhere. Where that lower price point typically comes in is not necessarily in the quality of picture, but in the quality of the product itself. I know that you can get smaller TVs or same size TVs at lower price points. But like Dan is saying, how long is that TV necessarily going to last compared to the build quality of a build quality of a product like Samsung or Sony or LG or one of the big named TV retailers out there. So
yep. So the only other thing I would care to mention on this is that when you do a 98, some people may be looking at that number and saying, like, that's absolutely crazy. I cannot tell you the number of times I've put this size of a television in someone's house, and we've done a ton of them, like unbelievably so, over the last couple of months, since they've been released. And they look small in some of the rooms we're putting them in. Just the way that the homes have really changed in terms of their design. And that would be the other thing that I would sort of talk about in a large size, is to say, if I got a 10 by 10 bedroom with an 8-foot ceiling, or it's, a basement or something like that, maybe it's a house that was built in like the 30s or the 40s and you're downtown and, you don't have a lot of space. 100 inch is going to seem absolutely monstrous and huge. But conversely, if you're building a barndominium, as we have in Nashville and in some of the surrounding areas, 100-inch TV might be dwarfed by the space. If you've got a 45 by 40 foot space, right, with 20-foot ceilings, all of a sudden you're looking at projectors and other things as well. So, size is one of those things that I got to say is definitely relative. So,
for sure. And I mean, we've got one of these that I just we're about to put in a enclosed pool house that will have a kind of a garage door that opens up on one side of it, and you'll be able to sit in the pool and watch TV. And we went and taped it out last week because the driveway and the house is getting redone because it got destroyed with the construction of the pool. And he's like, man, that looks like the 50-inch TV that I have mounted over the fireplace over here on the back porch. Because, I mean, you're like 40 feet away from it. It's really projection is what we want to do eventually. Or something like an LED wall, but, it's just not in the budget right now.
Yep. So, without further ado, why don't we go to the next, and that's going to be best value for picture in a midsize. And so when we say midsize, we're talking about 55s and 65s. And you might be able to cheat this a little bit into a 75-inch or 77-inch class as well, just because those tend to be the most popular sizes for most people. And so this is probably the area where I would say gets the most competition, right?
Yep.
I really do. So, Mark, where did we go for best value for picture in a 55-65?
We went with the LG C3 OLED.
Yes.
And the reason why is it really kind of wins across the board when it comes to anything that you can throw at it. If you're gaming, if you're watching television, just normal TV or upscaled television, if you're a movie buff, if you're using it as a monitor, as I am, it's really hard to beat. And at, right now, $15.99. I mean, the C series used to sell for $5,500, for a fraction of that cost now, and the quality of product that LG brings to the table is really just unmatched. I think,
Yep.
Again, price point compared.
Yeah, and I think that's really the thing that is the key here, right? Is like, how much TV can I get for how many dollars, right? And if you start to look at the different display technologies, so let's take, a backlit LED technology, for example, you're going to be maybe in a lower price point. And let's say you use Sony as the example. I love their 90L, right? It's $10.99 in a 65-inch, and that has, backlit zone kind of a concept and great processing, and, and I get that, right? But I'm already, 60 to 70% of the cost of what I would get with an OLED. And what makes OLED so special is that every pixel can turn on and off on an individual basis. And so you think about this, that means there's 8 million individually lit pixels or 8 million individual light bulbs on that television. And so it's kind of like going, I can get, as an engine comparison, like I can get a V16, right? And I'm not spending double the price point. And that's what I think is so incredible about what LG has done, is they've really, by getting into a price point like this, less than $2,000, they've said, no, OLED is for everybody. You don't have to, be some, huge, mega rich or, luxury, or, you don't know. You can just be a regular dude, regular gal, regular budgets, and, at $15.99, get the best picture quality and the best picture quality technology on the planet right now. So
agreed. And, if we were honestly, if this TV could win in every size category, if it was made in every size that we're comparing here. But it's the biggest thing that I love to point out with it is like I'm using it as a monitor. It's my gaming monitor and my work PC monitor. So, I use it all the time I went this direction because of the added color and contrast that it gave me over the previous LCD panels that I was using, especially when it comes to those, rich black levels. And Dan, you mentioned the amount of LED bulbs in this thing. You're talking over 8 million, comparatively to the previous model we were talking about. That 98-inch TV has 96 dimming zones. Now it's not 96 light bulbs; it's just 96 zones of that it's able to dim independently of each other. So that just shows you how much difference in color and contrast you can get by having 8 million different light bulbs versus control of 96 individual zones, like in the Samsung.
Yep. And I don't know where you found that number, because they don't normally publish them. So that's pretty awesome. And I would agree with you. Even let's say, and let's be generous, okay, and I hate to say it this way, but let's say that you took that number, right, 96, and you put another 0 on it, and then again another 0 on it. You're still only talking, right? It's like compared to 8 million. You're going, wait, something doesn't make sense in that math, and you're going, yeah, no, it doesn't make sense in that math. OLED is a fundamentally different technology. So, yep. All right. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the next size we're going to go for is here?
Sure. So the next size we're going to talk about is going to be the kind of small size is what we're calling it. So kind of that 43 to 50 inch size. And that is going to be the Sony 43X85K.
Yes.
It's a leftover model from 2022. You'll find that typically in some of these smaller sizes and even some of the very large sizes, manufacturers don't replace those TVs every year just because of the value that they bring to the table. And that's why we like to call this one out. I use this a lot for bedroom televisions or for monitors as well for folks that are in offices and they're going to have a scroll bar or something going across all the time. And, and maybe they've read about OLED and they're concerned about burn-in, which not really a problem, but understandably, you don't want them to be concerned.
It's a perception thing, right?
Yep. I'm not saying it's impossible, but don't hate me. But really, that it's just it brings a lot to the table for the money.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I agree with you, and I think for the money is the key phrase there, because you can get an OLED in a 42 or 48-inch size, and the truth is that you'll be in that $1,000 plus kind of a category. And so the issue here is actually less about picture quality in a sense, which is unfair, and more about the price point for the picture quality. And that's really the thing that is amazing about the TV market as a whole, is that sometimes the numbers, quite frankly, just don't always make sense. And I think this is one where it doesn't make sense to the consumer's favor. This TV, in my opinion, should be sitting around $700-800 if it was priced more accurately and in line with what its picture quality is. You've got HDR, you've got fantastic motion processing. I believe it's a 120 hertz panel. So going back to the motion that you mentioned, I mean, that's going to be absolutely fantastic. Great for computer monitor, great for an office, great for a bedroom. You know, I don't want something that's super massive. And again, I'm looking at that going, you know, there are, you know, some other options out there, you know, sure, but I traditionally have to be plus $1,000 in order to get there. So again, at $550, this thing is just an absolute beast.
Agreed. And you brought up price. We're the 43 inch is $549 right now.
Yep.
I believe that's its retail cost. It's not one of those TVs that you see go on sale quite a bit. The comparable size C series OLED C3 is $900 and a 42. So, is it a better picture? Yeah, we're not here to argue that. It's more about, like I said, the price.
Yep, exactly. All right. Well, moving on, we do want to look at the best looking or best aesthetic. So define a little bit like why that's a category unto itself.
So a few years ago, there was this TV came out, and we've talked about it. We've had a dedicated podcast about it, but you know, it really kind of changed the way that we all think about televisions in a lot of spaces, I think. I don't want to speak for you, Dan, but you know, I kind of do at the same time, right? And it's, you know, it's the Samsung frame. Aesthetically, it is the best looking television if you're putting it in a space where you don't want to see a TV all the time. You know, I have a Gen 1, and it was incredible when it came out. It was almost 3 inches thick. This thing was, you know, pretty big. Now they're, you know, an inch, maybe. So it gets that really sleek, thin look on the wall. And they've slowly upgraded the picture every couple of years to where it now kind of competes on the same level as like that Q80, Q90 level television from that Samsung brings to the table.
Yep, absolutely. And I think part of the reason why we have to have a kind of a separate category for it is because other manufacturers have started including options for art TVs, and that includes the G series from LG. That also includes a couple of additional companies that will actually frame your television. I'm looking at you, Leon. Those guys do a fantastic job. Vutech did the art screen for many, many years. And so this concept of having art instead of a television has been around a long time. But the price points, again, were just so out there, quite frankly, that it was very difficult to do that. So very similar to what LG did with OLED and bringing those to market and really being able to do such a fantastic job of bringing those price points down. I think the Frame TV has really done the same thing. And if you're after art, really as the primary concept, it's a formal space. I couldn't agree more. Like, there's just no comparison to the Frame TVs. So.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean, you and I both, when we first saw the Vutech art screen, were blown away. But then when it came to quoting it and
actually doing it,
you know, and you had to build essentially a 10-inch box behind wherever you wanted the television, and that meant that had to be cut into your fireplace if you're putting it over the fireplace. And I mean, you were going to spend $6,000 to $8,000 without the television.
Right. Yeah. So you're at 10 by the time it's all said and done.
Yeah. So you're at $10,000 before it's all said and done when it's installed and you bought your television and whatnot. And it was customized to that TV. So if your TV dies, 10 years from now or whatever it is, and if TVs aren't the same sizes anymore, you just spent a lot of money on something that you can't really upgrade. That's
right. You're stuck. Yeah.
Yep. And now you've got the frame, right? And I love it. I'm a performance person when it comes to television. It is not the best TV when it comes to picture quality, but I own one because of its aesthetic appeal.
Yep.
It's not my main viewing area, but it's where my wife and I care most about aesthetics. So, And I don't know if you've seen this, but they added in some AI processing to it this past year.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So if you don't know about the frame, quick recap, it's got art already built into it. You can upload your own artwork as well. The art built into it, you do have to pay a subscription for outside of a couple of images. But you can go into the artwork or to the AI section, and it'll actually adjust whatever photo it is to be like watercolor or black and white or
oh, gotcha.
Like
yep,
chalk.
That's
awesome. I'm not an art person, as you can tell. Not chalk, but you know what I'm saying. Like that kind of look to it, and it'll actually just take your image and shift it, utilizing AI to make it look like it's a painting instead of a picture. So I could put my wedding photo up there, switch it over to watercolor, and now it's my wedding photo painted as if someone was there painting my wedding, which is pretty cool, right?
That's amazing.
Yep. And not to mention,
fantastic.
Aesthetically, everything you can put around it, right? You mentioned the deco frames earlier. Again, hard to beat.
Absolutely. I will give it one knock, and not that we want to go super negative all the time, but it is not. If I'm the reason I bring it up is because it should influence your decision making. If you have to sit off to the side, let's say you have a big semicircle and the TV is going to be in the center of the wall, and it really is going to be mostly a primary, viewing area. I would definitely say put that OLED concept back into the forefront of your decision making, because the off-axis viewing is, I think, going to be the thing that is really the only knock on the frame. It's just not awesome, when you get off to some of those more extreme angles, right? You're 20 degrees off or 30 degrees off. It's just not going to be quite as good as what an OLED is going to be. But
yep. I have a knock. I thought you were going to say this, but you didn't. So, in-wall rated One Connect cable.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. Back boxes, custom install are required. That's fair. There's not a whole lot. And I guess it's kind of a half a knock and half not, because honestly, we've been doing these back boxes so much lately that we're putting them on TVs that are not frame TVs anyway, right? Just to give yourself more room and more flexibility. And, I've actually had a couple jobs where we've gone back where the client didn't have one and put a back box in, and it's not an art TV. It's just a regular television, but they wanted to clean up the Apple TV and the cable box and the controller and a couple of other things. And you're going, yeah, like it makes sense, to clean all that stuff up. So,
for sure.
I do think though that the way you said it was right. It's the in-wall rated nature of that One Connect wire, right? That's really where the problem is it's like, yeah, I know it's skinny and I know it's, transparent and it's fiber optic, but nobody wants to have a cord sticking down from their piece of art.
Nope. And you know what? I know we've got listeners everywhere. The reason why we're complaining about it here is here in Tennessee, at least, it is not an in-wall rated cable. So we cannot run it in the wall or through a conduit. We have to run it. Essentially has to plug directly into the television. So we put a back box behind it in order to A, hide the One Connect box, and B, stay up to fire codes. So, but maybe at some point, I know it was a big push even at CEDIA this past year from, a lot of our higher ups. So maybe we'll see some changes in the near future.
I hope so. All right. Well, without further ado, what is Best Picture, no matter the size? This is the number one TV choice that you can have 2023, 2024. And so if you said, man, dollars and cents, I don't care. We won the lottery yesterday. I just want the best picture I can possibly get. Don't care about frames. I don't care about art. I just want to watch the game, and it's as good as it can possibly be. Where would you go, Mark?
I'm going to go to the Sony A95. It is the end all be all, as it should be. It is their master series. top of the line television. And it comes at a price point. It's made in 55, 65, and 77 inch models. And the 77 inch is $5,000. Again, it's not 30 grand, but it is a lot comparatively to other options, even from Sony.
Yep.
So what makes this TV so great? It's when it comes to OLED, there are some cons in certain vendors, but this one doesn't have any of those cons. The cons being where you can get some uniformity issues or some blooming when you have a dark image on top of a light image, or light image
on top of a
walking
dark.
into a dark image. Sometimes you can get blooming around it. You don't get that on this television. And that means that not only are you getting the best color, but you're getting the best black levels, which is just going to give you more depth. And no matter what you're using this TV for, it just, there's nothing that really beats it.
Yep. And I would say too that it's hard to describe, because a lot of folks will use nit count, which is a brightness rating for televisions, in order to try and compare. And so if you spend time online and you're going back and forth and it's like, oh, this one gets a peak brightness of, such and such, and this one, blah, blah. And so you're trying to compare, and it's like, that's true to a point, but they don't have a rating for accuracy and consistency and usage of all of that particular brightness. And so there are TVs that have a higher nit count that are brighter, but they're not necessarily more accurate. It's like, if I take a soccer game as a perfect example and I turn the brightness all the way up, well, now the grass on the field doesn't just look like a natural green. It starts to have this neon color to it, and it's going to be kind of oversaturated. So when we talk about the accuracy and we talk of the color, we're saying, no, you can turn the brightness up and improve that clarity of your picture to get to that higher nit count, but you're not getting neon grass as a byproduct. You're going to get the actual color of the grass. It's just going to be brighter and more clear, as it should be, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all I can think is the first couple of years when LED TVs first came out, and we won't name a brand, but they always displayed football games and soccer. And they were displayed next to Panasonic plasma televisions, RIP. And the plasma TVs would look accurate, maybe not as bright, a little bit dimmer. The LEDs were so much brighter, and everyone would flock to that thing first and be like, oh my gosh, look at this. This is incredible. But the grass is toxic. It looks like they're running through toxic waste, kicking a ball or throwing a football and tackling each other in toxic waste, because it was so bright that it was just oversaturating all of the other colors. And then if you added black in there, forget it. It was gray, right? Because it's so bright. This TV, you don't have to worry about any of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think Sony's processing, considering that we don't have that 600 hertz refresh rate that you would have had historically on plasmas, this is a 120 hertz panel. So when you think about what does that processing really mean? Well, it means how smooth is the action on the field or in the movie going to be? Well, the answer is that the processor is now doing that work. It's not the panel. I don't have a native refresh rate that's super high. So that means the processor has to be the thing to do that. And this is where I think Sony's done an excellent job, and why, quite honestly, I have a couple of their televisions in my own house. I have others too. I have Samsung. I have LGs. It's not that I'm, super brand loyal one way or the other when it comes to televisions, but just to say that I think their processing is really top notch, and it's what I expect to see when I want to have no compromises. I don't want any artifacts. I don't want any glitchiness. I don't want, any processing errors. I just want the picture to be what it's supposed to be. And I think that's what Sony has really done. And I think that's the other reason why their Master Series, they do this all the time. They don't refresh that model line. They're like, no, we did it right. There's no reason to release a new version this year. We're not making updates. Like, this is good to go. So if you want to do it once and you want to do it right, again, this is the way to go. So.
Yeah. One of our buddies actually just got back from CES a few weeks ago, and he reps for Sony as one of the vendors that he works with. And there was no talk of replacing this television. There was actually zero talk of an OLED for them. It was talking about replacing their mini LED models and some other stuff. So that's why this TV, they can't make it better, at least not yet.
Right now. and until the next Master Series, right?
Yep.
So, all right. Well, do you have any honorable mentions that we need to bring to people's attention just in case you don't find yourself in one of these top 5 categories?
Yeah. So my honorable mention, I guess ours, is kind of a mix between the last 2 categories. So the best aesthetically pleasing television and the best picture. And that's the LG G3. That's their Gallery Series OLED. It's a step up. It's a step up from the C3 when it comes to picture quality. And it's also razor thin. So just like the frame TV, you can put this thing flat to the wall, and it's an inch thick off the wall across the entire back of the panel. It does require a back box to do that, which LG does not tell you. And on the 83 inch that I have, it comes with like the largest power cable, 10 gauge power cable I've ever seen, and they give you about 12 foot of it, which makes 0 sense. So you do need a back box to really make this TV as aesthetically pleasing as it's designed. But it is designed to go flat to the wall. It actually doesn't even come with feet.
Yep. Exactly.
So you have to mount this TV. But when it comes to performance, I would grade it 5% lower than Sony.
Yep.
And that's just my opinion. I'm not telling you based off of all this stuff, but for everything that I'm doing, I play games on it. I watch movies. I see this thing every day. To me, the aesthetics, outweighed the picture quality to sacrifice a little bit to make my wife happy.
Yep. Well, and it's funny that you say 5%. This is not rehearsed. I tell customers all the time, 5% between a Sony and LG. Yep. It's really not a huge difference. It's not. And if there was a big price point difference between your Sony and your LG, if you can get a Sony for $300 or $400 less, do that. If I can get the LG for $300 or $400 less, okay, go for it. No problem. We don't need to overthink this, to be quite honest.
Yep. And just to compare, that Sony was $5,000 for a 77 inch. The G3 is $3,500. So $1,500 for a 5% overall increase. For me, it's hard. It's hard to say yes to.
Yeah.
And I work in this industry.
Well, and it doesn't mean, that it doesn't make sense if, and again, going back to it, you win the lottery or you're in a financial position, it doesn't matter. Great. Yep. Awesome. Let's go get the best thing and, we'll rock and roll, that for you. But, is that going to be the first thing on our quotes? Probably not. Again, just due to that price point. And I will say the G3 is so good that where I've had clients where money really isn't an option, they do and are concerned at least about the efficient use of it. They don't want to be wasteful, is the way that they'll say it. And so, quite frankly, we did the G3, which in an 83 inch was outstanding. I mean, it really is an incredible picture. And I definitely think that all things being equal, you can't really go wrong with that television.
No, and that TV is and an 83 is still cheaper than the Sony.
Yeah.
So, hey, you can get a bigger screen and, not pay as much money.
That's right. And
I'm sorry, it's the same price right now.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
It might have been cheaper at one point, but.
Well, I'll say this, and I'm glad actually that you said that because it just made me think of it. TV price points do rotate on a weekly basis. And so I do think, just as a way of disclaimer, it's one of those things that you should definitely always be on the lookout. And you should give yourself a buying window, okay? Somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks And then what you can do is you'll find that somewhere within that 4 to 8 weeks, you're going to find that TV go on sale. And so when you start comparing these different models and you start looking at it and you're doing your research and you realize, you go, oh, okay, well, maybe the best time to get it is X. And so there are some times where if you really do want that absolute best value, there are a couple times a year that you can get that. And so, Black Friday's one, Super Bowl, the big game. I'm going to have to edit that out now.
Shh. No, you're fine. You're fine. It's all good.
But,
go ahead.
there are some times that you can do that. And I wouldn't necessarily say that clearance or open boxes or other variations of that sort, scratch and dent, if those are available, I probably wouldn't shy away from those, assuming that there's nothing physically wrong with the panel. I'd say you're probably good to go on a lot of those as well. So always be willing to give yourself a window and say, hey, I'm looking for these things. What's the best time, right? Or what's the best option from a price point perspective? There's always good deals to be had. So,
and don't they definitely set a goal. I would say, that's a great buying time frame, because you and I both have dealt with the same client for the past 5 years who has still not bought a TV 5 years later, because the new TV gets announced in January, and late January the old one goes on sale and the new one has some small upgrade that now they've decided that they want, but because it's a new television, it goes back up in price. So they're going to wait until Black Friday, and then Black Friday they're going to wait until,
well, maybe it'll.
Yeah. So don't play that game. I mean, most places that sell these things have a pretty good, pricing policy. Usually you can get a little, whatever the best deal is within a certain time frame. So, definitely take advantage of that, because TVs are going to change from week to week. And regardless of what anyone says this week, prior to the big game, really, holiday season is the best time to buy in general. If you're talking about the lowest price points that you're ever going to see on those models. But if you see it low during the holiday season, don't wait till the big game.
Yep.
And if it's cheap now, buy it, because it ain't going any cheaper.
That's correct. Yeah, I think you'll find that the only other, and this is, I know we weren't planning on getting into it, but I just feel the necessity to call out some gray market websites that do have supposedly much lower price points than what you will see from your authorized resellers. And so I do think it's appropriate that we call this out, that if you see a gray market website offering a television for $600 or $700 or $800 less, and you're sitting there in the back of your mind going, this is too good to be true. That's probably because it's too good to be true. You may want to think twice before pursuing somebody who can't even maintain a, we'll just say, a AAA rating with the BBB. Can't even do that. It doesn't mean that everybody's perfect or not perfect. Just saying, people know. So
yes, sir.
All right. Well, anything else, Mark, that we want to touch on regarding our top 5 TVs?
No, I think that about wraps it up.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Awesome. Well, in that case, thank you very much for listening or for watching. This has been The Sound of Design
with Mark
and Dan. And please like, comment, and subscribe. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions regarding televisions or anything else regarding custom electronics. Please feel free to hit us up at thesoundofdesign.com. And you've got a nice little request form there. So if there's anything that we can do, fill out that form, and we'll be happy to help out however we can. We'll see you on the next episode.
See ya.